Honorable Member for Damongo.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement so ably presented, Mr. Speaker, by the Honorable Member for Abuakwa South constituency, Mr. Speaker, on the occasion of the 60th anniversary of the passing of Dr. Joseph Kwame Chichi Boachi Danquah. Mr. Speaker, Dr. Danquah indeed is an icon. And Mr. Speaker, what is happening here in this chamber, Mr. Speaker, this parliament, and what transpires here in this parliament is exactly what Dr. Danquah stood for, what Dr. Danquah fought for, and what Dr. Danquah died for. Mr. Speaker, at the birth of our country, there was two clear schools of thought, two distinguishable schools of thought. And Mr. Speaker, I will refer this House to the statements, the profound prophetic statements made by Dr. Joseph Boachi Danquah on 4th August 1947 at Solpong, where Dr. Danquah, Mr. Speaker, made the point that Ghana should be governed on the basis of multi-party democracy, a democracy which is anchored on the rule of law, a democracy which will have a parliament such as ours, a democracy which will have different shades of opinions as we have today. Mr. Speaker, Dr. Danquah saw that as far back as 1947. And we are never to forget, Mr. Speaker, we are never to forget that there were very important voices at the time who disagreed with Dr. Danquah. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, at some stage in the evolution of our nationhood, particularly at the infant stages of our nationhood, Mr. Speaker, there was no parliament like this. Yes, there was a parliament, but there was a parliament occupied by only one shade of opinion. Today's Ghana, Mr. Speaker, today's Ghana, the ingredients of today's Ghana, the characteristics of today's Ghana was the Ghana Dr. Danquah prophetically advocated for even before our independence. And Mr. Speaker, it doesn't matter where you belong on the political divide, you cannot contest the fact that Dr. Danquah stood for the major pillars of our democratic state as we have it today: rule of law, freedom of speech, multi-party democracy, equality before the law, property-owning democracy. Mr. Speaker, that is the bedrock of today's democracy. That is the bedrock of Ghana's economy today. Property-owning democracy. The farmer in my constituency who farms and harvests and is free to sell, is free to own property as he or she wishes, and spends his or her the fruits of his or her labor as he or she pleases. Mr. Speaker, that is what Dr. Danquah stood for. And as Mr. Speaker,
so in conclusion,
as it's been established today, even our friends from the other side, our very good friends from the other side, and I mean the majority side, the NDC side, the Social Democrats, the Socialists, today are now owners of mansions and properties. That is property-owning democracy. Mr. Speaker, that is what Dr. Danquah stood for. Mr. Speaker, that is what Dr. Danquah stood for. Today, Mr. Speaker, our friends from the other side are defending their properties. Those that belong to their wives, their cousins, their friends, their wives, properties in cantonments, properties in Labone, properties in Airport Hills, properties all over the place. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by saying that what Dr. Danquah did not subscribe to do, is that we should have fairness. We should have fairness even whilst we are building a liberal economy. And Dr. Danquah believed that even in a free liberal market economy, there are those who are underprivileged. And that is where the state comes in. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the maker of this statement that Dr. Danquah continues to be a colossus in Ghanaian political history and is indeed the doyen of Ghana politics. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.